more for me right now. Monsieur Fillon, vous allez bien?
Bonjour tout le monde. Merci d'être ici ce matin pour cette annonce importante. Ces temps-ci, tout le monde ressent durement l'effet de l'augmentation du coût de la vie. La nourriture, le logement et les autres produits essentiels sont de plus en plus chers. Cette situation est particulièrement difficile pour les familles. Nous savons aussi que tous les parents veulent ce qu'il y a de mieux pour leurs enfants. Mais avec l'inflation actuelle, pour plus d'un tiers des Canadiens et des Canadiennes, obtenir des soins bucco-dentaires pour eux-mêmes et leurs enfants semble être hors de portée. Cette situation est alarmante car les soins dentaires sont essentiels à la santé et au bien-être des gens. Malheureusement, de nombreux parents doivent renoncer à ou reporter des soins dentaires importants pour leurs enfants alors que leurs gencives et leurs dents se développent en raison du coût de la vie et du coût élevé des visites chez le dentiste. Pourtant, l'accès à des soins bucco-dentaires en temps voulu peut faire une énorme différence à la santé et la qualité de vie de nos enfants. Et c'est pourquoi nous avons déposé aujourd'hui un projet de loi qui propose une prestation dentaire canadienne pour aider les familles qui ont du mal à payer les soins dentaires de leurs enfants. La prestation dentaire canadienne sera offerte aux familles ayant des enfants de moins de 12 ans, dont le revenu est inférieur à 90 000 $, qui n'ont pas accès à une assurance dentaire privée et qui devront débourser des frais de leur poche. On estime que le programme pourrait aider jusqu'à 500 000 enfants canadiens. La prestation donnerait aux familles admissibles des paiements directs non imposables. Elles pourraient recevoir jusqu'à 1 300 $ par enfant admissible sur une période de 2 ans, jusqu'à 650 $ par année, et pourront ensuite amener leurs enfants chez le dentiste. To qualify, applicants would have to meet certain criteria around their relationship to the child, their income and tax status, and would need to provide information about the provider and details of the work needed. Parents and guardians would apply for the benefit through the Canada Revenue Agency's My Account or through their CRA contact center. This interim Canada dental benefit is just a start. While this temporary benefit is in place, our government will be taking the necessary steps to build a comprehensive, longer-term dental care program. We are continuing to engage for that purpose with a broad range of experts, professionals in the field, provinces and territories, and parliamentarians of all stripes as we develop a long-term Canadian dental care program. Our government believes that cost should not be a barrier to essential care, and that includes oral health care. Children in need can't afford to wait, and they shouldn't have to. If passed, this benefit would provide more equitable access to dental care, empowering Canadian children to show off their brighter smiles regardless of their family's income. We hope that the proposed legislation will pass quickly through the House and that all parties will support it so that eligible families and children can start receiving their benefit in 2022. I'll now pass the microphone to my colleague, Minister Hussein.
Merci, Ministre Duclos. Hello, everyone. Bonjour, tout le monde. Before I begin, I would, of course, like to acknowledge that we are all gathered on the traditional and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe peoples. Like everyone here today, I know Canadian families are having a tough time, and September started with some folks in this country holding their breath, hoping that they have enough money left over to, from their rent to pay for groceries and food on the table. And this is an unbelievably stressful situation for anyone to be in. Canadians are pulling together, but we know that tough times fall hardest on the most vulnerable members of our community. And that is something that Andrea and her two daughters know all too well. They're on the Hill today, and earlier we met and talked about what they've gone through and just how far they've come since last year. Elles ont fait beaucoup de chemin au cours de la dernière année. At the time, they were living in a shelter, and they turned to the City of Ottawa for support, and staff directed them to the Canada Housing Benefit. This is one of 13 agreements that our government has signed with every single province and territory, and this Canada Housing Benefit is putting money directly in the pockets of renters to help them afford and be able to make the rent payments. Andrea's eldest daughter is the only one in her family who's able to work and support her mom and her sister, and it's a lot of pressure for anyone to bear. It turns out that it's actually thanks to the Canada Housing Benefit and the City of Ottawa that these programs enabled this family to have access to a safe and affordable apartment in Ottawa, and it's helping them to build a better future for their family. Simply put, the Canada Housing Benefit has resulted in this one particular family from not just getting by, but actually getting ahead. Programs like the Canada Housing Benefit support those who need it the most by helping people make rent payments. And through this one-time top-up to the Canada Housing Benefit, we will continue to support Canadian families right across the country. All told, this top-up will support 1.8 million low-income renters like Andrea and her daughters, giving some of our most vulnerable people a little bit of breathing room to weather this challenging time. So if you're a family that rents and has a net income of $35,000 or less, this support is for you. And if you're an individual who's renting and with an income of $20,000 or less, you can get this top-up. On estime que 1,8 million de locataires à faible revenu qui ont de la difficulté à payer leur loyer bénéficieraient de ce nouveau soutien. Cette allocation fédérale unique sera admissible aux Canadiens dont le revenu n'est rajusté et inférieur à 35 000 $ pour les familles et à 20 000 $ pour les personnes seules. As a government, we've always promised to have people's backs when times get tough, and we will continue to do what we can to be there for you and everyone in your family. Thank you. Merci beaucoup, tout le monde. I'd like to now welcome Minister Randy Boissonnault to the floor.
Merci beaucoup, Ahmed. David, I wore my red tie today. I thought you might have one on today, so good to see you. Colleagues, tout le monde ici, merci à mes collègues Duclos, ministre Hussein, ministre Leboutillier d'être ici aujourd'hui, et merci à vous tous et toutes. We begin this new parliamentary session in a moment of great uncertainty in the world, with the conflict in Europe reshaping global energy supply chains, with extreme and devastating weather events such as floods in British Columbia and heat waves in Alberta, and as we continue to monitor with caution the ongoing impact of COVID-19 on our reopened economies, our government is focused on building an economy that works for all Canadians. Through the pandemic, we delivered unprecedented support that got Canadian families and businesses going. We did it because we knew that it was investment in our economy that would pay off, and it did. And in the last week, the Prime Minister made it very clear that the first order of business for this parliamentary session would be to make life more affordable for Canadians who need it most. And today, we are delivering on that commitment. Earlier, I introduced Bill C-30, the GST-HST Credit Top-Up Act in Parliament, which would double the goods and services tax credit for 6 months. Essentially, it's a bill that will make sure Canadians, especially our most vulnerable, get money back in their pockets. Cet important projet de loi offrira un soutien supplémentaire à environ 11 millions de personnes et de familles qui ont déjà droit au crédit d'impôt, dont environ la moitié des familles canadiennes avec enfants et plus de la moitié des aînés canadiens. Yet this is just one of 2 pieces of legislation we've introduced today to make life more affordable for Canadians. I'm pleased to be joined by my colleague Jean-Yves Duclos, the Minister of Health, who today introduced legislation that would provide a Canada dental benefit starting this year. Cette prestation aidera les familles qui ont des enfants de moins de 12 ans, qui n'ont pas d'assurance dentaire et dont le revenu net ajusté s'élève au moins de $90. These families would be able to access direct payments totaling up to $1,300 per child over the next 2 years, up to $650 per year, to cover dental expenses for their children under 12 years old. Le projet de loi présenté par le ministre Duclos ajouterait également un supplément ponctuel à l'allocation canadienne pour le logement. Ce supplément serait offert aux demandeurs dont le revenu net ajusté s'élève à moins de 35 000 pour les familles et à moins de 25 000 pour les particuliers qui doivent dépenser au moins 30 de leur revenu pour payer leur logement. This means a one-time payment of $500 to 1.8 million Canadian renters who are struggling with the cost of housing. And as Minister Hussein said, this is an important support at an important time. For Canadians who need this support the most vulnerable Canadians, the 3 measures in the bills we introduced today represent new money for them this year at the right time. This is what an economy that works for all Canadians looks like. This is the targeted support Canadians have been asking for. We listened, and we made sure it happened. Now, they're counting on us, parliamentarians, to make this support a reality. Today, Mr. Poilievre said that today's announcement prints cash. Let's be absolutely clear. These 2 pieces of legislation provide targeted relief for middle-class Canadians who need it the most. Mr. Poilievre says this is inflationary spending. Many economists, including the former Deputy Parliamentary Budget Officer Mustafa Askari and the University of Calgary's Lindsay Tedds and Alberta economist Trevor Toomby, have pointed out that this support for Canadians is not inflationary. Mr. Poilievre's solution to help with the cost of living are to make cuts to government programs without telling us what he'll cut, to encourage Canadians to invest in Bitcoin, an investment that would have seen their life savings destroyed, and to support the wealthy 1%. Now, that's not surprising, but it is disappointing. Ainsi, j'aimerais encourager mes collègues de tous les partis à faciliter l'adoption rapide de ces projets de loi afin de rendre le coût de la vie plus abordable pour tous les Canadiens et toutes les Canadiennes. And I'm calling on all parliamentarians from all parties to work with us to get this legislation passed and get this support to Canadians. Our constituents want to see us working together, not playing games. They do not want to see procedural tactics and delays. They want results. Let's get this done. And sur ce, nous allons prendre des questions du média, and I'll turn things over to Gabrielle so that we can do that. Merci.
Ça va commencer quand ces paiements? Il faut d'abord que le projet de loi soit adopté, si je comprends bien.
Absolument.
Avez-vous une date à savoir à quel moment les premiers paiements pourraient commencer, y compris pour l'assurance dentaire?
Ça dépend de la segmentation royale. Et dès qu'on a la segmentation royale, on serait dans la mesure de faire des paiements. Et c'est en étroite collaboration avec l'Agence de l'Usine du Canada. C'est pourquoi le ministre Leboutillier est ici aujourd'hui pour nous expliquer comment ça va fonctionner. Mais ça, c'est pourquoi c'est critique que la législation passe la Chambre, qu'on le dépose au Sénat et qu'on reçoive la segmentation royale aussi vite que possible.
Madame Leboutillier, est-ce qu'on pourrait vous entendre sur les mécanismes de vérification? On a un peu l'impression que ça va être un guichet automatique. On fait une demande, on reçoit $650. Quelle garantie pouvez-vous donner aux Canadiens que ce ne sera pas de l'abus?
Bien, écoutez, effectivement, je peux garantir aux Canadiens que ce ne sera pas un chèque en blanc. Il y a des processus qui sont en place. Vous savez, lorsqu'il y a eu la pandémie, on était dans une situation d'urgence. Il y a des programmes qui ont été mis en place, 13 programmes pendant la pandémie. Et à chacun des programmes, l'Agence du revenu a pris de l'expérience. a mis des mesures en place aussi pour protéger l'argent des Canadiens, puis des Canadiens qui travaillent fort pour payer leurs taxes et leurs impôts. Donc, il y a du travail qui se fait actuellement. Comme on le disait, les populations sont ciblées. Au niveau de l'agence, on a des gens actuellement qui sont en formation, donc il y a des vérifications qui vont se faire pour donner accès aux gens au crédit d'impôt.
De médecins et de dentistes?
On va vérifier les dons des dentistes, les rendez-vous avec le dentiste, puis aussi, j'encourage fortement les gens aussi à remplir leur déclaration de revenus parce que pour avoir accès à tous les programmes, les gens vont devoir avoir fait une déclaration de revenus. Donc, c'est plus simple pour l'Agence du revenu là, de faire toutes les vérifications nécessaires.
Si on regarde la DPS notamment et l'aide au logement, si on exclut les soins dentaires que le NPD vous a forcé à faire, les mesures que vous annoncez aujourd'hui, qui sont typiquement libérales, sont limitées dans le temps. Donc, vous pensez que l'inflation, après décembre, c'est fini?
Écoutez, comme on le fait pendant la pandémie, ce sont des premières mesures qui sont mises en place et on va s'adapter au fur et à mesure de la situation économique au niveau des Canadiens. Mais vraiment, c'est important pour nous là, de cibler les Canadiens les plus vulnérables. Puis je vous dirais, au niveau des soins dentaires, moi, d'entendre un père de famille qui vient me voir puis qui me dit « Diane, j'ai fait le tour des dentistes, puis j'ai pas les moyens de payer un traitement de canal. Est-ce qu'il va falloir que je revienne à ce qui se passait dans le temps? Va-t-il falloir que je prenne une pince pour aller arracher la dent de mon fils? » Moi, là, c'est ce que j'ai entendu chez nous, puis c'est pas ça qu'on veut faire. Fait qu'on veut aider les Canadiens les plus vulnérables et ceux qui sont pas d'accord avec ça, je vous dirais que c'est des gens qui ont pas de cœur.
Minister Duclos, can I just ask you, you mentioned in your opening remarks that the Canada Dental Benefit is an interim measure. I wonder if you could explain what makes this program delivery model deficient that you just couldn't make it the permanent model? Why couldn't you just, you don't have to worry about the provinces, people can apply for a benefit. Why couldn't this be the permanent program for all Canadians who qualify? What's wrong with this program that it has to only be interim?
Good. It's called an interim program because of three features that will be improved over time. First, the coverage. Now we're speaking about children until the age of 12 today. Second, it's not a national dental program because it's obviously very important to make life more affordable for families with children and make them access easier the dental care that their children typically need. Just by passing, about 7 million Canadians don't go and see a dentist every year because they don't have the means to pay for dental care. And the third reason is that we want to make that obviously better collaboration and support to and with the provinces and territories. Now we're going quickly because we know this needs to be done quickly, but as we build a longer-term program that will cover more people in a manner which is more specific to their specific dental needs, we know we're going to do this in collaboration with provinces and territories.
When do you anticipate being able to move from dental benefits to the actual system of dental care? What's the timeline that's been given to Health Canada to develop this?
Well, today, obviously, is a very important announcement. It's going to help 500,000 children of low and middle income families, making them able to access dental care services. It's good, obviously, to address the challenge, affordability challenge that many of these families are currently facing. Also, the health challenge. There are severe health costs to not caring for children under the age of 12 when they have oral health needs. Now, as we build on this announcement today, there will be, as you know, there will be work over the next weeks and months to build a longer-term program, which, as the Prime Minister mentioned just a week ago, will address the needs of other Canadians, as we have promised we would do, and will build a system which better meets the specific needs, oral health needs of Canadians. Today is an important announcement, but there will be more to come as we build a longer-term program that is going to be more inclusive and more effective at helping oral health needs across Canada.
The Prime Minister has met with 3 premiers in the last month. The Prime Minister's office's own accounts of those meetings contain not a word about dental care. If you've got a year to make a deal, shouldn't the Prime Minister be raising this subject with his colleagues?
I have personally reached out to my colleagues, health minister. Just about 3 weeks ago, we had a FPT conference on all sorts of health matters, including oral health. My officials and I have also been speaking to individual provinces and territories since, I would say, last April. So we've been obviously speaking and working together for quite a long time, and we'll need to increase that type of collaboration because Canadians expect we do so.
Est-ce qu'il y aura une compensation pour le Québec dans tout ça, pour les soins dentaires? Parce que je crois comprendre qu'au Québec, il y a déjà une assurance pour les enfants. C'est déjà couvert.
Au Canada, il y a une assez grande diversité de couvertures. Aucune couverture au Canada ne couvre suffisamment les enfants de moins de 12 ans, y compris au Québec. Alors, au Québec, on sait que ça va jusqu'à 9 ans, là, 10 ans et moins. Il y a des traitements de soins de santé dentaire qui ne sont pas couverts. Par exemple, les traitements préventifs comme le détartrage, le nettoyage, le fluorure, le scellement des dents, tout ça n'est pas couvert et ça peut coûter très cher, surtout pour des enfants là, qui vont aller voir le dentiste pour la première fois de leur vie. Il y a beaucoup de familles qui ne vont pas voir le dentiste parce qu'ils ont peur de la facture qu'ils vont recevoir à la sortie de cette visite. Donc, on s'attend à ce que des enfants là, qui ont besoin vraiment de soins dentaires se retrouvent dans une situation où le 650 $ par année, 1300 sur 2 ans, va vraiment être nécessaire. Donc, pour des raisons que l'on peut facilement comprendre, y compris pour les enfants québécois.
Will work. We heard in the technical briefing that the people who are eligible will just get a check for the amount, and then if the dental services are less than that, they won't have to pay it back. But then we just heard that there won't be any blank checks and that there will be verification. So can you explain how the dental program will actually work practically?
Well, two things here. First, as you heard Minister Le Boutillier say earlier, now there are going to be measures now to monitor and enforce the rules that must be followed to have access to that benefit. And CRA, as you also heard, is now a lot better able to do this with all the heavy work that they've done over the last 2 years in particular. And second, $650 per year, that may seem like a lot of money, but that's not a lot of money. For families struggling to address the oral health care needs of their children, $650 when you go and visit a dentist, sometimes for the first time ever, that can be a modest start. Obviously, we're looking at this program rolling on for many, many years. But $650 for the first year, $1,300 over 2 years, I think cannot be described as a over-support to families with low and middle incomes.
Last question.
Will the COVID-19 emergency measures are set to expire at the end of September. At that point, will the restrictions on travel and random COVID-19 testing be lifted for the country?
We'll come back to that issue separately, because obviously something which matters to many of you as well.
Minister Boissonnault, can you explain, the economy is operating at more than full capacity right now. You're giving people more money. How can you claim this is not inflationary?
I really appreciate the question because we've been very prudent as a government to make sure that we're targeting the supports to people who need it the most. And as leading economists have pointed out, these supports are going to go to those people for whom, looking and having to deal with the rising costs of inflation, they don't have savings to go into. And so that's how we know that this is not an inflationary move. And just to give you the numbers, we're talking about $3.2 billion in new spending against a whole economy that's about 2.6 to 2.7 trillion. So this is like throwing a stone in the lake. The lake doesn't flood, and that's what we're being very careful to do. And if you take a look at the economists and what they've been saying very clearly is this is targeted supports to the people who need it the most. And coming out of the pandemic, just take a look at what former Bank of Governor Stephen Polo said, which is those investments that we made to get the economy back were not inflationary. They were the smart moves at the right time. We're going to keep being prudent. This is what responsible leadership looks like, and this is what having a good fiscal frame looks like. And take a look at the numbers internationally. Fastest growing economy in the G7 this year and next year, lowest debt to GDP ratio, and also the lowest deficit among our G7 peers. So we're going to manage the ship carefully, support people who need it the most, and fiscal prudence. Merci à vous tous. Merci.
Vous savez que c'est pas comme ça que M. Poilievre va le présenter.